Finally, we have this thing called Oversight on 38 Studios and more. Let's dig in tonight. Welcome into My State of Mind. I am Dan Yorke. Karen MacBeth is my guest this evening. She's the state representative for Cumberland, who is now the new Oversight Chairman. Yeah. And the Speaker of the House, Nick Mattiello, the new Speaker, of course, taking over from Gordon Fox, now about a month into his gig, has indicated that he's going to give her, well, we'll ask if it's carte blanche or free reign, but she has been a tiger on this, and if any representative was going to be called to be the chairperson, it should have been her. So I'm looking forward to speaking with her tonight about what her plans are to get to the truth on 38 Studios. In the meantime, let us go to the rundown and breeze through a couple of things. This was interesting when a key player passed away today. We had this conversation on the radio. This is a theory from one of our local professors that I got a kick out of, and you know what? It might make some sense. This, you know what? I guess I'm an old dog who can't learn new tricks, because what is this? And then nice. You got to read Ed Fitzpatrick's column today in the Providence Journal. It's a phenomenal recount of what's going on or what went on with the marathon, and one of our own in-house was a success story yesterday. All right, let's dig in real quick here. Looking back at Plunderdome, that's what I started doing today when I saw this headline. The news came out that David Eade had passed away. David Eade is a former police officer who ended up running his own vending business. He worked in the tax office in Providence and was an instrumental witness in the Plunderdome trial back now 12 years ago. Interestingly enough, his claims in his witness testimony did not result in a guilty verdict for Buddy Cianci, the mayor, on the predicate count that was, addressed to this particular saga. And then later, Artin Kaloyan, the mayor's assistant, was tried separately, and David Eade's claim of $5,000 bribe scenario fell on deaf ears with the jury. They had Artin Kaloyan not guilty. But it was kind of a throwback, God bless him. He was kind of an affable guy. People who knew him kind of liked him. He used to call me from once in a while to say, hey, listen, you got this right or you didn't. But I was reflecting back on Plunderdome today on the radio, weekdays noon to 3 on WPRO, and interesting mix of calls. I asked whether or not there's kind of a nostalgia about Plunderdome or whether there's a disgust. And I will tell you that, the halo effect, you remember only when you want to remember? It's kind of in place. There's more nostalgia than there is disgust. Which is interesting because if Buddy Cianci runs for mayor again, and the indications are that if he's healthy, he will, that will play into the mayoral race in 2014. If there's more nostalgia than disgust, I think it kind of speaks for itself. But interesting. Feels like a long time ago, doesn't it, Plunderdome? And then again, just like yesterday. Godspeed to David Eade. Next item, the rabbit strategy. This has cracked me up today. So we've been talking about the governor's race, right? We do that on a pretty regular basis here. And I was telling you about Bob Walsh, the NEA executive director, who is supporting the guy on the left there, Clay Pell, and who is convinced that the woman in the middle there, Gina Raimondo, is not electable in a general election. And of course, the guy on the right is persona non grata in this conversation, even though he polls well and is a very popular mayor in the city of Providence, Angel Tavares. So yesterday, on my rundown yesterday or last evening, I was telling you that Bob Walsh has this theory that he's going to get Clay Pell to 40%. Right now, he's polling at like 9 or 10%, at least the last Brown poll. Walsh says it's way too early to actually count a real poll. Okay, well, whatever. It's also not too early, though, to ask Clay Pell to put more than 2 sentences together and be able to answer a question, which is something he has not yet been able to do, right? But the NEA and other public employee unions are heck-bent on the idea that they're going to get Clay Pell to a 40% level, and in a 3-person race amongst those 3, he will win the primary. And he threatens Democratic voters by saying, if you vote for Gina Raimondo and she ekes out a primary win, she will not carry a general election because all of the union types won't support her, all because of the resentment over pensions. So that was that yesterday. Well, today, I'm listening to the WPR Morning News. John Laughlin, the former state representative, filling in for Gene Valicente, and he's talking to Wendy Schiller, the professor from Brown, and she proffers this whole new thought on the candidacy of Clay Pell. Listen to this.
I just don't think the Clay Pell campaign, frankly, is a serious campaign. I don't think he's got enough experience. I think the people who are backing him are essentially using him as leverage against Tavares. In other words, the unions want to make sure Tavares doesn't go too far to the right. They want to make sure that Tavares is going to be good for them. So they've got Claypell in there, and they're going to back Claypell until they're really confident Tavares is going to be good for them. And then I think they're going to withdraw their backing and support Tavares. I don't think this is a long-term campaign.
You know, speaking of running and marathons, you know, I'm an old track runner. Don't laugh. It's not funny. Knee problems. But I was pretty good in my day. Championship type high school runner. And, you know, so I know a little bit about rabbits. You know what a rabbit is? You've watched big professional track meets, right? That's the person, woman or man, depending on the event, who will lead the mile run, say, 4 laps around the track, will lead it for three laps and then peel off. What Wendy is saying here is that Claypell is kind of from the back, a rabbit, that he'll run and run and run, accumulate some points, and then peel off, and it all goes to Angel Tavares, and that's how they beat Gina Raimondo. I called her and said, do you have intel on this, or is this a theory? She says, it's just a theory. But you know what? I've been so puzzled by the candidacy of Claypell that right now I'm ready for any theory. If you've got one, contact me on Your State of Mind. Info at the end of the program. Next item. I was reading this today in the Bible in Northern Rhode Island, the Valley Breeze, and I just looked at it, I was like, really? I got to get some educators in here to understand this. Lincoln Elementary School switching to trimesters and new report cards. So I'm guessing this is not the only school that's doing this. But what used to be, here's the thing. What used to be A, B, C, D, F will now be 1, 2, 3, 4. So a 1 is not meeting the standard. 2 means you're approaching the standard. The goal is to get to 3, which means you are achieving the standard, and 4 means way past the standard, and they only expect 10% of the students to achieve 4. And I guess it all seems to make sense to them. And it's only in the elementary schools. They have no plans in the middle or high school yet. You can call me an old geezer. Do you feel like sometimes educators, I should ask Karen about this, the state representative is a principal. Do you feel like sometimes educators just kind of change things up because they're bored? 1, 2, 3, 4. Lincoln educators, you're going to be invited in here because maybe I'm missing something. And finally, this evening, the marathon stories are true. You got to look at Eddie Fitzpatrick's column. His work is terrific always, and his running yesterday was the highlight of his column. And he had this theme, which was "Let them come to Boston." He writes, "Some believe that the Boston Marathon bombing forever marred a great New England tradition, leaving us on edge and on guard, unable to embrace the race as before. Well, let them come to Boston." And that was the theme throughout. It was, you know, it touched me this morning. I thought it was a tremendous piece. So please read Ed Fitzpatrick's column because it kind of, I thought, brought it all together in terms of how people felt about what was going on there yesterday. And tomorrow night, Susan Hogan, don't mess around on Consumer News. If you're screwing the people, let me tell you something. Susan Hogan's going to find you and make you pay for it. But she looks awful happy there. Whew, you caught me on a bad profile. I should look at this monitor. Not a good profile. Susan completed the race. I think her first in 5 hours and 20 minutes. But she'll be here. We'll talk some Consumer News. We'll talk the Boston Marathon tomorrow night. It'll be a pleasure to have her here. By the way, she's in terrific shape. She goes like to the fitness center. She teaches classes. I don't know, the Zumba and the power this and the boxing that and the. She's always saying, "Dan, get your chubby self to my class." She'll probably do that tomorrow too. All right, when we come back. Well, good for her. Congratulations. When we come back, Representative MacBeth, oversight, very important stuff. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back in. Seriously, I felt like I'd gone to heaven when finally, we got some teeth in this House oversight action here. Here's a headline from recent. You can see the chair in the middle, Karen MacBeth, listening to witnesses and talking about the rules of the road, making a wish list of witnesses in this investigation over the debacle at 38 Studios and, you know, what is near a $100 million loss. Welcome to the program. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for your diligence. I mean, I don't usually don't soft shoe a lot of conversations with legislators, but you have been, you're not my rep, you're in my town, but you're not my rep.
Right.
But you have, how many terms now have you been?
This is my third term.
Third term. You were there that fateful night, as I continue to chronicle, in June 2010, when the entire House of Representatives approved a $125 million loan guarantee program with no specificity to the company, no project of any specific interest. When all along, we now know that 38 Studios was in the hopper, and you interrogated Stephen Constantino, the House Finance Chairman at the time, with questions that I thought were common sense and very basic. Do you remember the night like it was yesterday?
I remember it like it was yesterday.
Talk to me about that.
Well, that night, I questioned him because I didn't feel comfortable voting. I wanted to vote no on the bill, but was told this is a job creations bill. You can't vote no. It's great for the state. It's great for businesses. And I just kept saying something's not right here. So I'm going to do everything I can to ask every question that I can think of to put them on record. And if I hear something I don't like, then I'm voting no. And I just kept asking question after question. And they answered them, and I voted yes, and I've regretted it ever since.
Lost sleep over it?
I don't know, probably lost sleep, yes.
Well, good.
Yep.
I mean,
we were lied to.
Somebody needs to. There aren't many legislators who will admit that they were lied to. It's still kind of a fraidy-cat environment up there on this whole thing, isn't it?
I think some people are, but you know, if you lie, you lie. And that's probably the biggest thing people will say. I want the truth.
What is the lie?
That people knew that 38 Studios existed, that they were coming to this state, that it was a deal before we even knew about it.
Some will say, if you go back to the actual chronology, that there was enough murmur on Curt Schilling's interest in bringing his multi-online gaming project to Rhode Island, that there was some simultaneous discussion, and that is true. But there was nothing percolating in terms of a serious investment by the state of Rhode Island, at least on the record, correct?
John Brean had a bill that they had then incorporated into this, which is why I think he's one of the co-signers, about job creations. And then they tacked this on, and which is why the amount went up to cover that $75 million.
Well, yeah, but my point is that there was some scuttle that he was interested in around, but there was no connection for you guys, at least in that particular night.
Oh, no connection for us,
Because you were
no.
asking questions like, is there a specific company? Has this ever failed before, this kind of a loan guarantee program? Da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and you were getting not so specific answers. What
Right.
the representative was talking about here in terms of the previous bill, I've explained this to you before, twice prior, there was a proposal for a $50 million loan guarantee program, and it never got off the floor at the General Assembly. Now they come back with 125. Do the math. 125 minus 50 is 75 million. Voila, the principal that they're giving to Curt Schilling. Okay, let me not steal the show here. The House Oversight Committee has been going on under Gordon Fox's tutelage, and Representative Marcello from Scituate was chairing it and creating a voluminous paperwork. You've been on the committee, correct?
Yes.
Nothing but paperwork, not talking to nobody, right?
Right.
What was that frustrating you?
That was very frustrating to me, absolutely, because we have just documents and we don't have the people in front of us. So that's one of the things that I'm working on, is getting people in front of us that can answer questions.
Now, that seems to be like the lightning rod problem that Gordon Fox didn't want. The subpoena problem, the subpoena challenge, what is the legal tool that your committee will have to compel people to come speak with you? Let's talk about that first. What do you need to do to bring people in to demand that they at least, what's your legal mechanism?
Well, if we ask and they don't come, then we can have subpoenas drawn up, which the speaker signs, or he delegates somebody to sign those subpoenas.
If they don't show up, what happens?
We're going to find that out, because I know...
They're in contempt, right?
Right.
But what's the legal force?
Right now it would be a judge. Even though there's a separation of powers, the way that the legislation is written is it would go in front of a judge.
And the judge can compel them to testify?
Yes.
Or to come at least and express the Fifth Amendment,
Yes.
or take the Fifth Amendment. Speaker Fox was never petitioned by Chairman Marcello to subpoena anybody.
Right.
Were you chiding him over that?
I was. I was asking to have the subpoenas, and
Why did he hesitate?
You'd have to ask him
Well,
that.
the guy that you want to bring in is the speaker, the former speaker.
Right.
Ultimately, we know that he had some custodial responsibility for this shilling deal. So you're actually asking to subpoena the boss.
Right.
Hard.
I think it even goes deeper than that. You have many representatives that are lawyers there, and now you're bringing in a fellow lawyer who's also the speaker, and then also pulling in some of your colleagues in for questioning. And I think that's one of the benefits of not being a lawyer down there.
Nice smile on the educator's face over not being a lawyer. When we come back, we'll talk about what we can expect going forward. Don't go anywhere.
Do I look at you?
I believe that in the near future, the depositions are probably going to be unsealed, and because there's an open records request for them. Let's see what the depositions disclose, and then we'll take it from there.
That was House Speaker Nick Mattiello last month talking to me about this House oversight process. Now the chair is here, Karen MacBeth. I'm worried about that. Nick Mattiello has done something really brilliant. He's made you the oversight chairman. He's also still telling me that he's relying on depositions. And folks, that deposition part is about the litigation that the administration, the chief administration, has on former employees of EDC, Kurt Schilling, and all of that kind of thing. What have you seen all the depositions yet?
No, we went to court a week ago Friday
Right.
to see if the judge was going to open them up, and as far as I know, nothing is back on that, but we're not going to stop.
Even if they come to you, they might come redacted. It's just more paperwork. Now, it might be more provocative paperwork. And you say some of the paperwork that you've looked at has been pretty provocative, correct?
Yes.
What's the most compelling thing that you've seen in the paperwork so far on the 38 Studios investigation?
There's one piece right now that I talked about with the $1.5 million that the EDC had met and decided that for this job guarantee program, they weren't going to give loans more than $1.5 million. I have yet to find anything after that, that a vote was taken or an executive session and released, or that they did it in
That
open.
hasn't come out anywhere. No
and
one's
that's
talked about
part
that.
of the paperwork. The other paperwork that I found was they had to have a lobbyist for this, and they had to be paying a lobbyist. And so I tried to pull the sheets to see who had signed up for or against this on both the House and the Senate side, and to view tapes, and then to look at the votes. And there are no sheets on for people that signed up.
Those are public record.
I know they are, so I'm trying to get to the bottom of why, and there's no Senate tape, and we do have the House tape.
You just signed a list of invitations.
Yes.
A long list. Heading it, I'm guessing, is Gordon Fox and Steve Constantino.
Well, Steve Constantino first.
Steve Constantino
Yes.
is the Health and Human Services Secretary, who's the finance chairman, who was playing dodgeball with you on that particular night. He's gotten
Yes.
away more or less, other than some of my commentary, scot-free in a lot of this. He's a ranking cabinet member in the administration. The administration that's so offended about 38 Studios and litigating over it. Tangled web we weave, isn't it?
Well, if my letter doesn't work, then I sure hope Governor Chafee asks him as a director of one of our departments to come forward and meet with us.
Or you'll subpoena him.
Absolutely.
And Nick Mattiello, the House Speaker, will support you on that.
Yes.
He's
Yes.
committed to doing that.
He is committed to getting the answers for the state. Is he going to jump right in for subpoenas? He's going to hope that the depositions certainly have information, that people are going to come and speak to us willingly. But if not, he's there to get the answers. And he wouldn't have made me oversight chair because he knows that as much as we work together, that we owe it to the state. And we held each other accountable for this.
Transparency is this whole thing that everybody talks about in sound bites, but we don't see a lot of that in government. Are you walking into kind of a guillotine here politically? You walk softly, you're pretty even-keeled. You're deliberate, I think. You're not a showboat. People have a little bit of a mystery going on about you, I think, now that you're getting high profile with this oversight thing. You comfortable with your role? Are you worried about the big-time politics around this whole thing? I'm
not, because I never saw myself as a politician, and as long as I do what the voters elected me to do, I'll keep doing it. And at some point where they say that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to, then I leave. I think I'm there for the right reasons, and when I'm not, then put me out to pasture.
What happens in the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days with the committee?
With the committee, well, we'll be handling 38 studios, but we'll be handling other issues. But on 38 studios, We'll be looking for the depositions. We'll be looking for people to come speak to us if we need to. We'll be looking at subpoenas. And our committee goes through year-round. It doesn't meet just during House session. So we'll be meeting over the summer, and we'll be getting the answers for the people. One of the things that we're going to be addressing within the next month is to see what we do with moral obligation bonds. As a state, what do they mean? Do we need them? Should we outlaw them?
Right. Remember, this 38 Studios financial mechanism here is a moral obligation bond, not a general obligation bond. But I'll tell you one thing. You know what? Here's the funny part about the litigation. You know what? If the litigation goes away and there's a settlement, then there's no penalty to the state. I mean, there's a very complicated dynamic with. I'm probably out of time here, so we'll have to have you back at some time. But don't worry about the litigation. Go get the answers. The people deserve to know what the heck happened during the season of 2010, right?
Yes, we do.
All right. Good work.
Thanks.
Good luck. Karen MacBeth, don't go anywhere, or you'll pull the microphone's like pulling out of a gas station where the thing's still in the tank. We'll be right back. Your State of Mind. Don't go anywhere. Alrighty, Your State of Mind. Educators, I should have asked Karen MacBeth about 1, 2, 3, 4. She's good at that kind of stuff too, but I'll leave her on the House Oversight right now. She's got enough on her mind. Your State of Mind, you react to anything you see here or any question or comment or idea, 228-1886. Leave us a voicemail or email us at stateofmind@myritv.com. Tweet or Facebook post. Here's a Facebook post. Someone's yelling at me, I think, on the Facebook. Oh, they're saying I'm yelling? I don't know. Have I ever yelled at anybody? Yelling and calling people stupid gets you no friends. Well, you know what? I'm kind of like Karen MacBeth. I'm not worried about making friends. I don't yell on television. Sometimes I yell on the radio. Not as much as I used to. I'm getting old. And sometimes you got to say the truth. And there are some stupid people out there. Not you, though. Don't be insulted. We're here just to make friends. We'll see you tomorrow night. Susan Hogan and her marathon stories, 7:30. And tomorrow at noon on WPRO. Have a great night. Thanks for watching.